and welcome to Hanging On by a Thread video podcast. It's half an hour or so, I'm aiming, with me, Celia, talking about knitting projects and crochet projects, things with thread and fiber that I think of doing in a week. You are very welcome to my channel. I hope you like it here. If you've watched my podcast before, thank you so much and welcome back. If you're new, this is another knitting podcast where it's me this time, just chatting about what I've been working on during the week and ideas of things to knit and all these goodness. So yeah, first things first, spring is here now. It's a cloudy day. Do you care? I don't care. This is getting a tough one. Oh, so this might be a bit of a low energy episode. I hope that's okay by you. It's been another strange week in pandemic land. We've seen absolutely no one and just talked to the people in the house. So yeah, it's like that for most people, I guess, and that's why there's a lot of knitting going on. As you can see, I am back in my partner's studio downstairs, and mainly because it's just a little bit more comfortable to be able to close the door and shut the world away. Upstairs in the living room, it's prettier, I guess, but this way I get to be more uninterrupted, even though that is usually a hard thing to do. Oh man, yeah, it's been a long week. And I felt a lot of pressure for coming up with content, but I've been a busy bee, jumping from project to project this week. So this is a week of WIPs, definitely. I have completed nothing, started a new thing, and I've just plodded away on some of the things I talked about last week. First up, before I forget, come on, it's the what I am wearing segment, because I have still not run out of pullovers and cardigans to put on to show you. And this is now episode 13, which means it's episode 9 of the new revived podcast. Anyways, for if you're new here and you haven't gone like, oh, I want to start from the top and watch everything, I officially started this podcast back in 2018. Yeah, I did 4 episodes, then we moved house and I promised I would pick it up again very soon, which I didn't, and I had about a 2-year hiatus on that, and back now doing this weekly, filming every Friday, posting every Saturday, or that is the plan, and it has been working so far. So okay, enough chatter. Hey, did I forget? Yes, I forgot. Sorry. Before I talk about what I'm wearing, I'm going to also tell you that if you want to follow me on Instagram or on Ravelry, which are the 2 places I am active on social media, my username there is Silmoa. And any notes from this podcast, any stuff I'm talking about, links to patterns, yarns, etc., I will put in the description box below on YouTube and also on my blog, which is byathreadblog.com. Okay, now that's out of the way. This is my Whitehorse sweater by Caitlin Hunter. So in 2018, I think me and everybody else in the knitting community were knitting Boylan Knitworks patterns. And I have a few of those. I've already worn a couple. This is now my Whitehorse sweater, which I have dubbed Bracken, which is a common horse name for a traditional Norwegian horse. It's basically called the dun one. So I think it's fairly obvious why. It's kind of a dun color. Would you call it a grey dun or a yellow dun, I wonder? But anyways, so this is knit up in Hillesvåg Tinde, and I had originally bought that yarn for another project, but I wasn't getting a colorwork project, but I wasn't getting the contrast I was looking for. So I had this with this kind of a mint green yarn to contrast to knit the Humulus sweater by Isabel Kramer, which I might wear next time. But I wasn't getting any contrast at all. I couldn't see the hops pattern, which was very important. Low contrast is not my jam. When it comes to colorwork, I really want it to pop, and especially when it's such a lovely pattern. So I had then 4 skeins of Hillesvåg Tinde, which is their DK to worsted weight yarn, in the pelt wool. And this Whitehorse sweater is obviously it's a lace yoke, top down, and it is for DK weight yarn. And I think Tinde it was a great choice for this. I think this is the most neutral sweater I have ever, neutral colored sweater I have ever knitted. Knitted? Knitted, right? Okay. There's a bit of baby noise going on upstairs. My partner's on baby duty while I'm filming. I'm trying not to be mom and just rush up and like, what's going on? Let me take care of this. Don't worry, you man. And you know, because he's perfectly capable. It's not like he hasn't done this before. Anyways, I was talking about the Whitehorse sweater. Yeah, top down lacework, sure, yoke, and this fuzzy pelt wool. It is perfect for days like this where spring is officially here, but it's not really warm enough to be wearing a t-shirt, let's say. So this is I made it elbow length. I think I made it after the measurement specified in the pattern, which, as you can see, it kind of made it a little too short for my arms. I would have liked them to be comfortably sitting here about a couple of 5 centimeters, 4.5 centimeters below the elbow, but as it is, I have to give it a tug every now and then. But the fit around the bust and waist is great. I did knit up the 3rd size, which I believe 3rd and medium, possibly. That's usually what I knit. And yeah, it's got little bubbles. The only thing that bothers me on this, except for the length of the arms, which I could have easily amended myself, is the fact that the lace work, in this size at least, the repeats are not symmetrical. I don't know if you can see that, but I would have liked that this fat repeat here, and then you have the skinny ones on the side. I would have liked that to be centered. And I follow the pattern on this and it's slightly off center. The lace repeat starts in the middle of the back. And then of course it's one thin and one fat. So yeah. Do with that info what you want. If you want to knit this, just rejig where you start to repeat and you should be able to center the lace pattern. yeah, it's been holding up pretty well. I have some pilling. That is probably due to that it's a 2-ply, quite loosely plied yarn, and I have a fairly loose gauge on this. I think I mentioned before that for Caitlin Hunter's patterns, the gauge is always super loose. For my personal preference, like fingering weight yarns at a 22 stitches per 10 centimeter thing, that creates a very loose and airy fabric, and I like it to be a bit more sturdy. But okay, yeah, so it's a DK weight jumper. The color were the lace, what is up with me today? The lace work is very addictive, so if you do have time, a good chunk of time to sit and knit, it can be completed fairly quickly. I looked in my project on Ravelry, and it had taken me a total of 10 days from cast on to cast off to complete this. It must, but disclaimer, in April 2018, I had just moved from Spain to Norway and I was unemployed. I wasn't officially looking for work yet, and I was just having kind of a vacation at my parents' house, which means I had like built-in childcare as well. So I was just basically, it was a beautiful, beautiful spring, and I was just spending it sitting in the garden knitting all day, every day, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. So 10 days, 2 weeks knitting in the garden was what it took me. That's basically, I was like treating it as a full-time job. So let's say 60 hours of knitting. Does that sound ridiculous? No, that's yeah, 10 days, a couple of hours every day knitting, sure, that's 60 hours. So let's say 60 hours knitting here. Okay. Whitehorse. It is, oh yeah. It's a reverse stockinette in the body and on the sleeves, which you just kind of, you turn your work inside out, knit the other way around, and so you're always knitting, you don't actually purl. That is the thing. Okay, cookie break. Now that I've managed to clumsily cover the Whitehorse sweater by Caitlin Hunter, I can start talking about my current WIPs, which this week have been, well, not that many. I mean, normally I only knit at 1 or 2 things during a week, but this week I've been in and out of 4 projects. So 3 of them I've had on my needles for a while, and I have 1 new cast on. So first, I'll show you how far I am on the Lapwing sweater that I showed last time. I did pick out from Hibernation a Marie Wallin design, which is an all-over colorwork jumper, pullover in this case, and it is green. Obviously, I knit a lot in green. It's one of my favorite colors, and I had just started on the first sleeve. I've done the body and I've started on the sleeve last time. I have now completed 1 sleeve. Yes. So, and of course, instead of casting on the second sleeve immediately, I cast on a new project. But we'll get to that. This means I am much, much closer, and I'm very happy to know that it will take me less than a week of knitting to complete the sleeve, which means I'm very close to finishing, which has me pretty pleased. Sorry, I get super distracted by the baby squeaking. I can hear it. It probably doesn't even get picked up by the mic, or by the time I clean up the audio, you won't notice. But anyways, I'll show you the Lapwing. So what we got going here is the Lapwing sweater and one sleeve. Huh? That's pretty good. Yay! I'm looking at the thing. So it's not going to be full length, it's going to be slightly less than full length. So this kind of, what's that called? Bracelet length? Is that correct? English speakers? I think it's bracelet length. Yes. And then there's the drop shoulder, which I couldn't remember it last time. Drop shoulder, obviously. Has a drop shoulder, crew neck. It's gonna be a little longer than cropped. And yeah, so the alterations I did on this one is that I changed it from knitting flat to knitting in the round, which means I have staked for the armholes, which I'm gonna make them a little longer, the opening of the armholes. So you see the width of my sleeve is a bit deeper than what's here. So I'm gonna match that. And I have this raw edge. Focus on the knitting and not my eye. I have this raw edge here. I've only secured it with back stitches by hand, and that seemed to have worked very well. It's fairly slippery. I don't know, probably shouldn't manipulate it too much, but I'll sew the sleeve on slightly past, so a couple of stitches in from my stick anyways. And I've also knitted the sleeve in around, just, you know, placing the pattern as it is indicated in the color chart. So she has charted out those first rows of increases, and I just keep that, and I added a purl stitch there to be like my start and end, and I do my increases on either side of that stitch. Oh yeah, I have a little progress keeper here now. Now I don't use this progress keeper as a progress keeper. I use it when I'm increasing stitches. So for this one, I know that I was increasing every 4 rows. I was increasing a stitch. So every row I increased, I attached this. So instead of having a lot of different ones, I just kept moving that one up, and I know that, okay, then I 1, 2, 3, 4, and I need to increase. I keep moving that one up. And it's stuck here now because this is the spot where I had the number of stitches I was aiming for. And then on the next sleeve I will do the same. And then I know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 rows before I want to end the pattern, I stop doing increases. So this last bit is it's straight. When I got to the desired length of sleeve, I did a thing that it's called for a lot in Norwegian knitting patterns, which they are constructed for a lot of them are constructed for the most part like knitting around, join at the shoulder, and stick for the sleeves. And then when you do the arms, they ask you to knit kind of a cover, like you don't have to use a ribbon. So this I will sew on, I will attach the sleeve so it's nice and neat there, and then on the inside I will use this extra bit to cover that rough edge stick, which makes it look very nice and neat. And it's very simple to do. You just, when you're done with your sleeve, just start knitting back and forth, and so you have a purl, the purl side out and the knit side in. So on the inside then, once I seam up my sweater, I will tack this down to cover the cut edge. And yeah, then we are pretty close. So if I manage to cast on another sleeve this weekend, I might have something to sew up next weekend, which is pretty cool. That being said, I am also distracted by 2 other projects. I'm knitting. I'm plodding along on my full snood, which I have here. I don't know if I'm going to talk so much about that, but that's kind of like in between knitting when I'm like, or I put it in my bag when I go out for a walk, so I can sit and knit on the bench outside. That one is a manageable size, although sleeves are a manageable size, but the pattern is a bit complicated, and I just need to knit this with presence of mind. Yes, this, by the way, repeating, Lapwing sweater by Marie Wallin. I am knitting this in Blue-Faced Leicester, which is hand-dyed by Nina Petrina, and Telespin Simre, which is a mohair yarn. So they're both 2-ply, fingering weight, and yeah, gorgeous yarns. So that's coming along nicely. Oh, I'm blowing out the camera. Is it the wall is dark and I'm very fair? There we go. Thank you. So the next thing that caught my attention this week was my Granny Pullover, because I have started. Oh, now I'm not tangled. I thought I had tangled like 4 projects together. Granny Square Pullover. This is not a pattern by anybody. Well, it's not a pattern. It's me. I made some granny squares, stitched them together, and made a neckline. So last time I talked about it, I had done basically the body thing and the neckline. I have advanced. I have now done the ribbing, which I also did in twisted the rib, 1 by 1. And I did an attempt at kind of drafting, aka winging it, a sleeve, and I picked up and did start a sleeve. Here's now, I'm about to the elbow, I think, on this sleeve, which is, I'm just doing a plain stockinette sleeve, full length on this, I think. And I was debating like, oh, what should I try to do? A satin sleeve, or I have no idea what I'm doing with this. So what I realized is that this shape basically calls for what they call a modified drop shoulder. So that is what I'm going for, which is making it so much easier. I don't have to do a huge amount of calculations. The only thing I did around the armhole here, okay, so after sewing this together, I did 1 row of half crochet, half double crochet, That's what it's called, yeah. Half double crochet around to make it nice and neat. Then that resulted in being way too many stitches for any sort of a knitted sleeve pickup. So I don't know if you can see here. I did another round on top of that, doing a round of double crochet, but every 3 crochet stitches I did a decrease, and that gave me more or less the amount of stitches I was aiming for a decent armhole opening with the knitting gauge I wanted here, which is 26 on 10 centimeters. We can figure that out since I am winging it. I am not. Nope, I don't have my... Yes, I do. I lie. I have one of these clever things, which is a... I don't know if you can see what it says, that maskemåler. Something Danish from Lille Strik. So it's to measure the gauge, so you can just hold it over your knitting, and it tells you more or less. This is good enough for things where you're fairly certain you're getting the gauge you want. I would still do a proper knitting sample and count the stitches over 10 centimeters just to be sure. That's why it also has a ruler, so you can do that with the same. But for just checking, and I said I think this is 26. That's pretty close. I'm not going to sit here and count stitches, but anyways, so yeah, I did that double crochet there, and I figured I want the sleeve attachment to be kind of a... I don't want to hide it. I think it's okay. I have seams. I have, like on the side here, you can clearly see the seam down the side. You can see it's flat and nice, but you can see that it's 2 squares, that they're squares joined, right? So I wanted it to be obvious here as well. So when I picked up from my crochet stitches, I picked up my knitting in the back loop of the crochet stitch, which left me this nice little line in front. And of course I'll end this sleeve in 1x1 twisted rib. So this is fun. I'm hoping, so there's actually two things I'm hoping to finish this next week. Unless of course shit blows up in my face, which sometimes it does, and you know, you lose a whole day because you're sat on the sofa sobbing because life is shit. Who knows? But then it's good to have simple stockinette knitting, isn't it? So you can knit it even when you're sobbing. Yay! Okay. Yeah, this angle is a little weird. I thought I started decreasing every 4 rounds because I knew I needed to like more than half the amount of stitches. But this was a bit of a brutal slope, so where this little keeper is, I started decreasing every 6th round instead of every 4. And it's giving me a nicer slope, but it doesn't look too weird. I hope it looks good on. I've tried it on a couple of times and I think it will be fine. We'll see, we'll see. So that's happening. So this is not a pattern project. This is out of my own head. It is knit in the white beige, marl beige color is Røma Finull. Quite a lot of the colors in the squares are also Røma Finull, but there's also some Hillesvåg Sølje and Hillesvåg Vilje lamb's wool, like hand-dyed stuff, like this little green here. That's a hand-dye from Verbit. Then you have the Sølje, this dark ochre color is so beautiful. But that's Hillesvåg Tinde. The deep navy blue is also Tinde, which is a grey base. The pelt wool over and dyed with navy blue. So yes, this is happening. I'm very pleased with that. And let's see what happens. Obviously, if I finish either of these two sweaters, the Lapwing or the Granny, I will be wearing them next week. So not making any promises, but hoping. So I say like I was making this stuff up to go, but I thought I might mention what kind of resources I was using to come up with how to do the sleeve, for example. So I have a few knitting books, and I pulled out this one, Knitting Pattern Essentials by Sally Melville. So it's basically, it has all the little calculations you need to do different sleeves and styles of things, and it does what it says on the tin: adapting and drafting knitting patterns for great knitwear. So I found this bit for modified drop shoulder. I was like, but that's the shape I have. Let's use this calculation. So that was great. Yeah, it tells you what measurements you need where on your body and on the garment, and then how to adapt that, and it gives you the calculations to do for it. So you just fill in the numbers you have from those measurements, and voila, you have what you need to adapt, or just, you have figure out how many stitches to cast on. It gives you a mini pattern, really. Pretty cool. I'll recommend it. It is confusing to me that they call for stitch. The calculations are given for stitches per inch, and then they have like parentheses 2.5 centimeters, which is kind of the equivalent of the inches, which kind of makes the whole calculation a little bit more complicated, because centimeters, guys, it's much more easy. It's so much easier. Anyways, but yeah, it's very, very convenient. All sorts of good bits about shaping and adapting. So I think I'll probably use this a bit more going forward, because I'm getting a little better at reading the patterns, and if I see like a sweater design that I really love the look of, but I know, for example, that sleeve doesn't suit me, or that body shape isn't what I'm looking for, I can use this tool to alter it so it fits me better, right? Or just to alter an existing pattern into a different gauge. I don't know, stuff like that. So, Knitting Pattern Essentials, Sally Melville. Okay, I did talk about the two WIPs, and I did mention at the start that I also have a new cast on. Yes, I do. I finally decided to use these gorgeous skeins. So I had 5 of these beauties laying about. This one I have saved to last because it has this spot that's much darker, which the other skeins didn't have. So I'm saving this for the last bits. So this is more accurate. This beautiful yarn is 100% superwash merino in the colorway Kobbertak by Millas Mikrofärgeri. They are local to me, hand dyer from in the close city here, Trondheim, and she does very nice colorways. She has all the colorways available at all times, so you can just order, you choose the yarn you want, and she dyes up the color you want on the yarn you choose, which I think is a great service. It's and it's not terribly expensive either for hand dyed yarn. It's just okay. So I have cast on top down lace work yoke. This is the Kuutar pullover by Sari Nordlund. So it's on a very small needle right now because you start with the 1x1 twisted rib neckline, and I'm showing you the ugly bit. So I was alternating skeins on the rib there, and I know everybody's talking about helical. I haven't watched any of those videos. I'm just kind of trying to switch up to stagger my yarn switch, so it kind of ends up looking like that on the inside. It's not very pretty, and you can totally tell if you go in close that I switched it. But at some point, it's not so noticeable. So I figured out a way, at least in ribbing, to hide it a little bit better. My yarn switchy majiggery thingy. When I got down to the lace, I stopped switching because I'm not very afraid of pulling there, because you're continuously doing increases, so you're kind of shifting where that color repeat would potentially come. But on the stockinette body and sleeves, I will be alternating skeins again. And yeah, so I ended up choosing this one. It was between this colorway and another green, which is a bit more dark and pine foresty. But I only had 4 skeins of that one. I had 5 of this, and the pattern did call for at least 1,000 meters, so I wasn't sure if I was gonna have enough with the other colorway. So we ended up with this one. I'm really pleased with how it's turning out. I was afraid that the little black spots and stuff might be distracting, but I think it's gonna be very cool. So according to the pattern notes, this is like a Japanese stitch, lace stitch thing. It's not much to look at yet, but if I pull it out, you can maybe see how it's starting to shape. There you go. Camera thought that my head, my forehead was more interesting than this. Who knew? So this is gonna be very nice, and it's a soft, squishy merino. Yeah. So this is only started. Because it's lace, I get confused a bit by lace, and now that it's rolling, you have these purl stitches that define kind of the edges of the repeats, and it's easier. But just to avoid mistakes, and then I can I place a little marker on each repeat. I know I just have to do that. 2 reasons for that. It's very easy to count to see if I have the correct number of repeats that the pattern says I should have on the size I'm knitting. I am knitting the 3rd size again from the Kuutar pattern, and I should have 20 repeats around, and I do have that. Another thing is that I can control that I have the right amount of stitches easier. So it's really easy to just like drop a yarn over or forget to do a yarn over, and then all of a sudden you have the wrong number of stitches on one of these lace repeats. But now then, instead of having to count all the stitches and then trying to figure out where in which repeat did I drop one or skip one or add one too many, I can just quickly see where, okay, I have the right amount of stitches between each marker. So if you're like me and your mind is a bit slippery when it comes to lace work, then I recommend doing this. And these little round markers are great for that because they're not so bulky. As you see at the starter round, I have one of these Knit Pro standard markers. If I had that all the way around, I would be really annoyed. It would bother my hands all the time. But these Cocoa Knits, I think Cocoa Knits markers are really great for that. They're discreet, and I have the colored ones because then it's really obvious and you can see them. I know that they have brass ones and steel colored ones and whatever, but I like my markers to be bright and kind of gaudy so that I can easily spot them. If they're too pretty, I just kind of, they blend into the knitting, and yeah, that basically is it. I'm not done so much on this yet, so I don't have that much to say, except I think it's going to be a gorgeous sweater when it's complete. Yeah. And Kuutar, yeah. Lady of the Moon, apparently. That means in Finnish. I have no clue about Finnish. Yeah, one of the Nordic languages that just it sounds very nice. I actually watched a bit of Sari Nordlund's podcast in Finnish, and it's kind of soothing to listen to languages like that. But I couldn't understand anything, so I swapped back and watched it in English instead. And I can actually, knit well. Anyways, that after the Kuutar, I have not got anything more on my talk list. You might be wondering what's up with, well, Celia, you have yarns here. That's just kind of pretty. It's just decoration. I obviously have plans with these skeins, but do I? Actually, no, I don't have plans for any of those skeins. I just bought them because they're pretty. Yes, I did. I had them for a while. Oh, so yeah, this has been a long week. Do you want some chatter? I can chatter a little bit. I think I have enough material for a whole episode now. I'm trying to keep it under an hour of chatter, which I think I've done okay. The last 2 episodes were about 35 to 40 minutes, which I think is fine. But yeah, and it makes it a bit more manageable to do a weekly as well, when I don't have the expectation to fill a whole hour or with stuff. And I also think that the dreaded YouTube algorithm doesn't really promote stuff that are over an hour. It becomes too long for people to bother to click on and make the commitment of watching. So they'll be like, oh, it's more than an hour. I don't know your face, so I'm not going to click on it. And obviously, we want people to click on the stuff that we're making. But yeah, and thank you for everybody who liked and commented on the stuff so far. It's really nice to know who's watching and hear your thoughts and comments on the stuff that I'm doing. So thank you for that. Obviously, if you this is your first episode or you watched a couple already, but you haven't really taken the plunge yet to subscribe, please do so now. Hit like, subscribe, the little alarm bell if you want to be notified. And I hope you enjoyed my chat today. Now I plan to download and edit all this video stuff, which I have a bit of a routine now, so it doesn't take me forever anymore. So I'm happy about that. And then some knitting, and then there's Easter. The Easter holidays are upon us, which means the kindergartner is going to be home for a whole week. We had originally some plans, but then lockdown got kind of restricted. They got the chokehold on us again, and we won't be able to go anywhere in Easter. So it's gonna be time at home. Hopefully, I'm tentatively positive we're gonna have some nice weather, and there is some garden project happening this spring, so I might do some snaps of that once it starts on my Instagram stories, because one person asked for it, so obviously I'll have to do it. But yeah, I might share some of that on Instagram. We're going to be raising basically the whole front yard and do a patio, and I'm going to have a vegetable garden and lots of fun stuff, composting, yay. So that's gonna begin, and it's gonna be great to start being outside. I hope we can start clearing that in Easter. And but even so, I plan on doing an episode next Friday as well, and you will have that on Easter morning. Maybe I'll even manage to do some fun Easter themed things by then. Who knows? Yeah, thank you for watching. I'll hope to see you next time, and have a good vacation, and maybe I won't say "and" so many times. Bye!